Welcome to the Green Transition Show with me, Dr. Francis Tuokun. Illegal mining continues to destroy Ghana's forests, rivers, farmlands, and livelihoods across the country. And despite numerous military operations, policy reforms, and enforcement campaigns, it continues to persist. Yet, many argue that one institution that has not been fully empowered to deal with the problem is the chieftaincy system or the chieftaincy authority system. Can chiefs and traditional leaders become the missing piece in Ghana's fight against illegal mining? Today, on the Green Transition Show, we'll explore this question. And with me to do that is Dr. Manessa Menta. Welcome to the show, Doc.
Thank you, Francis.
We are so happy to have you on the show. Kindly introduce yourself to our audience and tell us why you are even interested in chieftaincy and illegal mining issues.
Thank you, Doc. My name is Dr. Manasseh Minta. I am an environmental specialist. I have a multidisciplinary background that landed me in environmental policy. I started as a history student. Then, in my later years, I keenly became very interested in environmental activism, both in my professional areas of expertise and also in school. So I decided to pivot from history all the way to environmental policy. Yes, I am based in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and this is another area where people don't joke with the environment and things that happen to the environment because it is what sustains us. I mean, the entire humanity. So yes, one can say that this multidisciplinary approach and background have made me to be someone who is so much interested in environmental issues and policy. Thank you.
If you are new to the Green Transition Show, kindly hit the subscribe button on YouTube. You can also follow us on Facebook, LinkedIn, and on TikTok. This will motivate us to continue to bring you insightful conversations. Doc, I would like to set the stage by saying that small-scale mining generally has contributed to the economies of many countries across the global south, particularly Africa, South America, and Asia. In Ghana, for instance, we are told that it contributes 40% of Ghana's total gold. In fact, this year, the Minerals Commission reported that it has overtaken the large-scale industrial mining sector, in terms of gold production. So it means that the sector has the potential to contribute to, rural livelihoods and economic development. But we also know that the sector has led to environmental degradation, particularly illegal mining operators. Now, illegal mining has persisted despite successive governments deploying military operations, task forces, and structural laws. Why do you think these approaches have not produced lasting results?
Thank you for the question. Well, let me just make this disclaimer. I, per se, do not believe that illegal mining can be eradicated from just one specific actor point. I don't believe that neither only politicians nor the local people alone or even our chiefs alone can help curb the menace. It has to be all hands on deck. It has to be from multiple background and sources. And so, back to your question, it is not surprising that we've not been able to deal with this problem for so many years to this end. And that tells us the power of what we are dealing with. Listen, from time immemorial, gold is priceless. Gold is prestige. Gold has such enormous value. Go to all cultures over the world. And then wherever you hear gold, people gravitate towards that particular place. I mean, let me give you, of course, you know my background already. I talked to you about it. It's history. I mean, if you read the history of America, I mean, we call Sunday the Radgis or the Wild West. Why did people move all the way from New England and then the eastern part of America to the west, which was highly uninhabited at the time, and with just a few dotted local tribes of Indian origin? Gold. We had a California gold rush. We had a Colorado gold rush. I remember years ago in high school, I read an article about the world of blue jeans frenzy. And then it captured it that the once no nonsense trousers of California gold diggers have become the world most celebrated trousers today. It tells you something. Wherever gold is, people find it. People dig for it. People kill for it. People do all manner of things, consult mediums, just because of gold. So there's so much at stake whenever we talk about gold. And so that tells you that it is not just an easy thing to say. We're stopping people from polluting rivers. We're stopping people from putting arsenic or mercury in our waters in effort to eradicate gold mining. It goes deeper than that. My father hails from a town called Dunkwanofe. Of course, he has an Ewe parentage. And I have extended family members that, you talk with one at a time. And they tell you stories about gold. Some of them, when I was young, I was always laughing about that. Gold is spirit. They buried it here. It will be making noise like a cockerel, all those kind of things. And then they also tell you one other thing that, listen, when you see all the story buildings in that undulated landscape in Unkwa, it is a sweat of gold that built them. The first arrivals in Americas from Dunkwa, it was these gold that purchased ticket for them, gave them a livelihood to come back and help us back home. And therefore, our sustainability as a society depended on this. It is something God given to us. In our river of Fin, you understand? So it is not so easy. People lay already a traditional claim to these things. No matter how the modern state emerge, no matter how you talk about Ghana, regions, districts, that the government is at the apex, and that it controls everything. You have to even put government at the center of solving all these problems. People don't see it that way. They still see these things as emotionally, culturally, and traditionally attached to them. So if you say the goal is for Ghana, it's not for Dunkwa, they don't understand it that way. And so if the missing link is you are not able to sustain them in other ways, provide livelihoods for them, send their walls to school. When they go to school, get them some kind of technical ability to sustain them in terms of job acquisition. There's a missing link. They'll go back to claim that which they think belong to them. And that to me is what we don't understand. So when we parade technocrats, mining engineers, geodetic engineers, spatial GIS specialists to be at the vanguard of solving a problem that is fundamentally traditional, there's a lacuna. There's a missing link. We can never solve the problem until we get to the root of it and understand that technocrats don't solve a problem that is traditional and cultural. It is people from multidisciplinary background. It is people who understand both dimensions that can.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, historically, chiefs have been custodians of the lands and natural resources. How significant is their legal and moral authority in regulating mining activities within their traditional areas or jurisdictions?
Thank you. I mean, the moral and cultural, no doubt, we can't doubt these authorities, okay? Even though there's a decadence, especially in the moral aspect, and I'll come to that. But the legal, there's a lot of doubt. Now, I am from a legal background, and of course, so I'll give you a more detailed explanation as to what I mean by there's some doubt. Let me begin with the cultural and the moral authority. If you go to any community in Ghana, from the northern part to the southern part, we have chiefs in one form or the other. It doesn't matter whether the society is acephalous or centralized. And I'll explain that too. Now, in predominantly the Akan areas of Ghana, they organize their society centrally. If you go to, for instance, the Ashanti region, the head of the paramountcy is a king. They call him the king, Otumfo. And all the other subjects, the divisional chiefs, whether it is Kokofu, whether it is Mabon, whether it is Ejiso, they all pay homage to this one king. And he is the one traditionally that sit on big, minor, also issues within this jurisdiction. I mean, traditional jurisdiction. And so when you have a case involving illegal gold mining in Ejiso, it comes to him through the subdivisional chief in Ejiso or whatsoever, and then it gets to the Asantine at the top. But this is not the same structure in other societies that are not centralized. If you go to the Volta region, for instance, my mother's hometown, whether Aveme or Usuta, the chief in Usuta, even though he is the chief in Usuta, is even contending with other chiefs in Usuta over paramountcy. Every chief thinks he or she is autonomous. Land is not rigidly owned communally as it is in centralized societies in most predominant Akan areas. So the chief in Usuta, whether you are a paramount chief of Amfuega, you are not bigger than the chief in Aveme or Usuta or whatsoever, because society there is not centralized. People do their things based on family. Now, when you go to Usuta, for instance, my hometown, I come from a suburb called Wa. And according to the oral history of our town, we are the first people to move to the new town, Usuta now. Yeah. So the latter people who come, even if the paramount chief is from their place, I mean the latter suburbs, the paramount chief cannot come and claim our land and say we should owe or pay homage to him because he's the paramount chief. Our land traditionally belonged to we, our family, and we can choose to do whatever we want on that land. The same thing applies to governance. Yes, you may be a subdivisional chief, you may be the one who is governing morals, fires, etc. in that particular area, but it doesn't necessarily make you the demigod over people of Akbu, people of Amfuega and Osra. So you have to understand that it is more difficult to organize people, in acephalous societies because everybody is within the same beam balance, But centralized areas is far easier. But here is the paradox. You say that if subjects of Otumfo account to him, therefore he should be able to crack the whip if someone in any of his traditional district jurisdiction, is dealing in illegal gold mining. But here is where it gets murky. Yes, it is true that way, but it is also very bureaucratic, It becomes more difficult because, of course, when you look at the geography of Ghana, most of the illegal gold mining that occurs, you've been to Takwa and all that, occurs in those centralized places, you understand? And there's a tendency that when these things that I've talked about hitherto are not provided to the people, and because of the spiritual attachment, the cultural attachment, and all that they have to these lands, you understand? They see you just as an exchequer. You are just like someone who is in trust, holding the land for them, you understand? And therefore, if you're not able to provide all this, whatever it is, stakeholder conversations, what's in the development and etc. through government partnership, if you're not able to do it for them, they still will do it. You understand? They still will take the law into their own hands, even if it is a traditional law. They still will not add any value to your position by coming to you and subjecting themselves to your authority. And let's also face the truth. The modern state has taken away or accept most of the powers of these traditional leaders, whether it is in centralized societies or acephalous societies, even though it's more rampant in acephalous societies than centralized societies. So when I was young, it was not an uncommon spectacle that when somebody steals right from goat to maybe a cow, when you are subject to appear, we'll call it kind of like a mandamus, before a traditional leader. It might not even be the chief. It might be just a linguist or the Safo group or whatsoever. Pick you up. They'll parade you around the whole town. You carry that thing. It is still there in some villages in Volta region. They'll shame you. You appear. Areas will sit in a council or session, and then these adjudications will take place, even before the police or whatsoever comes in. But now, who respect that? I mean, come to think of it, the policeman even have more power than the assemblyman, so to speak. Yeah. You understand? Or maybe the chief's custodians, subjects, linguists, etc. You know, Abusi opinion. So we don't respect these things again because the modern state, we think, is having more of a legal backing than this traditional leadership structure. And that's the truth. You know, let's just be real. When I was in the University of Cape Coast, there's, I think, Professor Mezi, who is now Nana Kobiniketia, I think he's the chief of Sikado. I think he's also the Western Regional House of Chiefs. President. What is it, president? Yes. We had, I mean, he was a long time, I was a patron of the Convention Post Party at the time when we were in school. So I had a very good relationship with him. And then he would tell me the same thing. That's about almost 20 years ago. But I said, chiefs are just paper tigers in this modern day. You understand? You come to me, so I should partner to help solve illegal gold mining, etc. But you remove me entirely from the equation. Whatever I say does not carry any legal backing. It's just a word. I'm a paper tiger. I'm a floating vector. You get what I'm saying?
Yes.
So, and then you ask yourself, is it only about illegal gold mining? No. In our governance process, this is the same thing we do. Look at all these disputes all over Ghana, chieftaincy dispute, etc. And I'll tell you what, if you remove the hands of politicians from it, these families, they'll be able to amicably resolve their own thing, no matter how long it takes. But because somewhere, somehow, we think that government is a solution. Government comes into the lives of people and regularize things. We give government this so much precedence and importance, so that when government rather comes in, it has a magic wand to turn things around and etc. But listen, this same government is the one that dysfunction and then make even worse the problem. Instead of government rather taking a backseat and giving the vanguard of this fight to the people who knows it better, the people who have that personal direct relationship with the land, relationship with the people, relationship with their subjects to lead? No, for some reason, we've taken away all their powers. And now we make a U-turn and blame them. How do we solve it?
This is the Green Transition Show with me, Dr. Francis Token. My guest is Dr. Manessa Menta. We are live on Facebook. We are also live on YouTube. If you are new to the channel on YouTube, kindly hit the subscribe button to continue to motivate us, bring you such insightful conversations. You can also follow us on TikTok and also on Facebook. Doc, this is a follow-up to the question you've just answered. Some critics have argued that while many chiefs are fighting illegal mining, others have enabled it through land allocation or financial interests. How do we honestly address this reality?
So it's a legal regime. It's a legal regime. So we have this dual legal regime in Ghana, right? In one vein, the Constitution says that all the lands, the four corners, belong to the state, right? That's the truth. If you want to literally read that, you understand. I mean, if government want to apply eminent domain says, let me take it because of necessity reasons, but I'll pay just compensation to whoever, you understand, is affected. It's still, in a sense, telling that the government is the one who owns the land. So we have this and we just oppose it to the regime that we say, on the other hand, customary lands that are for family lands, for families and etc., the chiefs are the ones who are supposed to, organize these lands and etc. So you go to campaign trail. I mean, I've been a politician in Ghana, and every politician has to visit a chiefdom, pay homage. You understand? Take their blessings and etc. before they can do their thing in there. It tells you something. They respect traditional authority in that sense. But for what end? You get a whole point. So the law says you can do your registration through this. Acquire land from a family whatsoever, right? You get all the papers, the title, the indenture, etc. by registering from the Lands Commission. Now the same law also tells us that government can, for the purposes of development, go to the Gachis, for instance, talk to whoever is the owner of Labadi lands or Nungwa lands, Teshi lands, etc., go into some kind of understanding, take the land for development and pay whoever are those affected by those communities or the lands just compensation. It's been there. It's just been a practice in so many areas of the world. But the problem with that regime is that it is not so clear about the traditional one as it is with the legal one. So people can still go get land, like I have lands in Teshi and Shire Hills. But the fear is that if you get a land, I don't know whether they're looking at it from complementary point of view. If you get a land from traditional authority, if you get a land from family, whatever they call it, family land, traditional land, what's name, chieftain land, whatsoever, if you still do not register that land through the other legal regime, that is with a state apparatus in place, that land is essentially not yours. Someone's title may be even more stronger than yours, or someone's ownership right may be stronger than yours, depending on whoever is able to get first to the Lands Commission and present those documents and register the land. So you go to places, and there was a very funny case recently in Cape Coast High Court where a land was given to a Chinese developing company. I don't know if they passed through all the modalities and get their license and etc. But well, that's a company that came from China and was doing, according to them, real gold mining. I don't know whether I see that. Well, small scale is left for Ghanaians, right?
Yes.
But I mean, real gold mining. And then the chief for that area, I think, is
large,
Upper Dentra.
large scale gold mining.
Yeah, large scale gold. So
yeah.
So this chief is somewhere from, I think, for Himine or whatsoever. And then that land sits right there within his jurisdiction. He also went and gave the land to another different company. You understand? And that company was equally mining gold. And he said, this is my land. You understand? This, whether you call it family land or whatsoever, is within his area, within his jurisdiction. So apparently, there is not any clear modality, you understand, who at one point in time they consulted before the Chinese got that land. You understand? Because this chief is also saying, this is my land. You understand? But here's the thing. He did not have title to it. You understand? But it could be true that that land actually sits within his jurisdiction. You understand? But the land was given to the Chinese. So he went to court to challenge that. That even though I did not legally have title to this land, you understand? I am the chief. And this land belongs to my people. So you can't sell this land to the Chinese or whatsoever without having a second conversation with me. A consultation, you understand? And a form of well-organized agreement. And what I see in most of these cases is that when it comes to mining, organizing concessions, title, inspection, etc., like I said before, the Modi state has filled in all these things and they remove the hands from the chain. Who really are those that have relationship with the land and in a sense are owners of the land? You understand? So I think this is a problem. That is why I say legal, I don't think so much. Yes, they have the cultural and the moral authority, even though we can still argue morally that the same government regime has made morality even less of a defiance, because now if I have an issue, when I was doing politics and then somebody insulted him and then they took me to a chief or whatsoever, you understand? And then they said I should appeal. I said, well, if you have a case, go to court. You get what I'm saying? And then we all do the same thing. We all do the same thing. So how do we balance this? How do we put these people at the vanguard of where we are. And then it just not just calling them names. Oh, the land belongs to you, are the custodian. You are just a paper tiger. That's the truth.
Yeah, so just to add to the point you mentioned earlier, especially using the Chinese company to illustrate or make your points, the Minerals and Mining Act of 2006, Act 703, as amended in 2015, 2010, 2015, and 2019, which is
Mhm,
also considered the mother of all mining laws in Ghana, states that
mhm.
wherever a mineral is discovered, it belongs to the president of Ghana, who holds it
Exactly.
in trust for the people of Ghana. But the same law also says that the original landowner, in this case, the chief that you talked about, should be
Mhm.
consulted and compensated. But in most cases, these chiefs and original landowners are given little or no compensation at all. So that has been a problem over the years. So the mining company or mining companies generally always claim mineral rights to the
Exactly.
owner to
Over.
the ownership of the lands, whereas the landowners or the chiefs claim birth rights
That's perfect.
to the
Exactly.
ownership of the lands. So it has been a problem
So
over the
so
years.
you just bring me back to the same point. I mean,
Yeah.
legal regime is murky.
Yes.
And I think developing countries, well, I am having a very interesting class with Dundee now, with my master's in minerals and energy policy uh, law. So some of these things we discuss is often in class and with different regimes and etc. Surprisingly, and this is how we approach things in Ghana and then most developing countries by large extension. You take a government, and then we talk about, say, the Tema motorway. Nkrumah built this, in the 1950s, 1960s, right? And then you ask, why can't we have this kind of roads? You understand? At least 10 all across Ghana, or maybe build railways to interconnect every part of Ghana. I tell you, the cost is too much. It's redundant. It's this. Why do we practice a hybrid system of governance? Why can't we go for parliamentary or presidential system and just forget? Oh no, we are just a small country, and then for economy, we just have to do things in a different. We do things little by little because of this same excuse. You understand? And then we think that we are smart, but we slash and bend the bush and create problems for ourselves. Listen, the first African origin billionaire in America came from Oklahoma, was a young woman who was born in slavery in the 1800s. And then in those days, Jim Crow was there, segregation was there. But before she died, when Lincoln declared emancipation, they started to, redistribute land to Manumishi slaves and then the free slaves. And then her family had a portion of land. Now, she was just young, around 12 years, but she was having that land. A white person was holding it in trust for her because the great grandparents, the parents all died. And then, guess what happened? Oil was struck on that land. Oil was struck on that land. And this young black girl became the first black billionaire. You know, because the regime, even at the time in America, was more capitalistic. And that is something I want us to talk about, maybe in another discussion. But let me just lay it bare here. Listen, in America, if you struck gold, oil, whatsoever on your land, and it's not just a surface you own, anything benefit, you own it as well.
But
Government,
the
I'm
American
coming.
the laws are different, right?
Yeah, but I'm just
Yes.
laying bare because I don't want to talk so
Yes.
much deep into that. Government can tax, get royalties, you understand, whatsoever you call it, but it doesn't just, by some form of eminent domain, just lay claim to everything beneath the soil, just simply
Yeah.
because it is beneath the soil.
Yeah.
And that is why I'm saying that we need to look at these things very carefully.
Yeah.
So, like I said first, when we started this program, the local people don't understand that you're legalist. They don't
Yeah.
understand the language. You understand? What they know is that this thing is a natural endowment from God. It is on their land. You
Yes.
understand?
Yeah.
Whatever you are calling under the surface, if I can drink borehole, you understand? And then you don't call it mineral. You understand? But I have gold and you call it mineral. And that one, you are laying claim to it, that it belongs to the whole state. You get what I'm saying? That's your legalist interpretation. They don't
Yeah.
understand it.
Yeah.
So until last we get to, Clarify some of these things and then stop being too smart. And it
Yeah.
says being too so stupid. You know, I personally think we have to follow the American way if
Yeah.
really we understand the modalities better. Yeah,
Yeah, I agree with you. Like I said, so it has led to clashes, several clashes between communities and mining companies. Like I said, mining companies often claim birth rights to the ownership of those lands. Mineral rights to the ownership of those lands, and the communities or the people or indigenes claim birth rights to the ownership of those lands. And
exactly. Because
yeah,
that's how
so
they look at it.
yes,
That's how they
yes,
look at it.
yeah,
And let me tell you the truth. If today gold is found, gold is found on my ancestral land in Wusuta, you come to tell me the government will take off, will I be happy? I'll be the first person to contact University of Colorado School of Mines to see whether I can have some geodetic engineers, sound engineers, what's the spatial geographers, and etc.
yeah,
Hey, go and then do some exploration for me. You understand? I'll
yeah,
mobilize my community, and I want us to have a fair share first. Listen, we all think about individual interest before group interest. You
yeah,
understand?
yeah,
Communities don't see it that way, no matter the interpretation you give them. You
yeah,
understand? It's so far as the benefit, direct or indirect, does not benefit them first. They have to have the first cake and the
yeah,
first bite.
yeah.
You understand? How do you explain this to us? It's common sense.
Yeah. And I think I have to make this point that, one of the reasons why we continue to have increased, uh, illegal mining activities in many communities across Ghana is because of issues like this. Uh,
Exactly.
so, for instance, if you go to the Wassa mining enclave, Takwa,
Hmm.
Bogosu, Pristia, and all
Yeah,
of those places, over 70% of the lands there have been allocated to mining companies. And most of these mining companies, I can say over 90% of these
and
mining companies, or almost all of them, are multinational corporations, right?
corporations.
They're not owned by Ghanaians, they're owned by foreigners. And if the people are farmers, and you've taken over 70% of their lands and allocated to foreign multinational corporations. What do you expect the people to do? Some of them
Exactly.
have no option than to engage in illegal mining activities. So these are the nuances. These are the issues. Uh, why illegal mining activities continue to persist. So we have to address issues such as this. Until we do that, illegal mining activities will continue to persist. If you are
Exactly
listening,
true.
if you are watching us, this is the Green Transition Show with me, Dr. Francis Tuokun. Our guest is Dr. Manessa Menta. We are
I
discussing
mean,
illegal mining activities in Ghana, why it continues to persist, and the role of the traditional system, chieftaincy system, how the chieftaincy system can help address issues of illegal mining in Ghana. Yeah, please go ahead.
yeah, you see, I've been to the Obuasi, Takwa, Dukwa, all those areas across board. And what you say is rightly so. So the way the local people also try to circumvent it is they feel like if we get our own private developer, private miner, you may call this particular individual from China illegal. You understand?
Yeah,
But then, if I rather like how we do sharecropping, okay, in most of Southern Ghana, give it as a lease, the land to this guy, and it's a wager, it's a gamble, right?
yeah,
And he strikes his gold. At least the little amount that I can get a day is far more than whatever it would take for the land to provide me the next 10 years, right? Even though it's a cocoa land or maybe a maize land or whatsoever. It's not really a greedy mindset unless you don't really understand it from their point of view. Number one, majority of them don't have any livelihood, right? And this is the same little peasant farming that they do.
yeah,
And here the case is most of them are not even educated. So the skills that we are even talking about, nobody even allocating it to them. Nobody even see them as potential people that can even be trained with this kind of smithing to do something with their hands. And so they feel like the only way me to I can feed my family, the only way me to I can put food on the table and maybe perhaps still sponsor my little boy to go to customs or any of the what's the government service agencies is to do something like this to sustain myself. And so when a Chinese comes and say, hey, you know what? I can give you this and this, 500 Ghana a month. Oh, that's like a fortune. They give it. And then when you come and say, hey, you've done a mistake. This is unlawful. It's illegal. You don't have right to this particular land. If you think this surface is yours, the mineral benefice is not yours. Does it make any sense to them?
Yeah. Right.
It doesn't make any sense. The Anglo Gold has been in Dunkwa for so many years. How many years? And then when you go and see the town. The whole of Church of Pentecost, believe it, everywhere is dark. Why? Because people think that is the only way they can also sustain themselves. There's no job, nothing for them. You go to a town like Takwa, and there's a whole Chinese community. Names, hotels, everything is written in Chinese. Yeah. And the people think, if you think you're going to just sack the Chinese, these same people will rise up against you. You want to come and stop Gala? How? You know how much I do get money if I fetch water for these people a day? This is what people told me on the field. You understand? That, listen, if it is unhealthy, unlawful, whatsoever, let me tell you, this is what drives our local economy. I sell kenke here. You know, I fetch water. This is how much I make. I make 500 Ghana a day. So this is not something you can just destroy as a regime. No.
Okay.
It's livelihood.
So based on all of what we have discussed so far, what would effective collaboration between traditional authorities, government agencies, district assemblies, and security services look like? What do you think? Yeah.
That preemptively, I mean, government have always been talking about effective collaboration for how so long? I mean, there's this what's the name? Recent Obuasi declaration and all that. Listen, I understand, but the fundamental problem will never be solved. Because if you talk about collaboration, I mean, it's the president talking about, chiefs have to collaborate, blah, 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 to solve illegal gold. We all understand this language. And let me just say something very simple. If even gold is found in the Volta region, the same problem that Obuasi is having today, Volta will have it. So don't let us think morality is a question only for some people and not others when it comes to mining. We can talk about clean rivers today, but trust me, if gold is found just beside Akosombo, you understand? Easterners, Voltarians will still lay claim to that river. You understand?
So are you saying? Are you saying we'll never be able to solve the problem?
We will solve the problem by first getting to the root of the problem. Cosmetic dressing chiefs as sitting in session, in council, in meetings with whoever is a DC, whoever is a police chief commander, whoever is whatsoever task force leader in that district, or maybe decentralizing it or centralizing it, will still not solve the problem. People still want to relate, just as we do in politics. I live in America for so many years. I came down to come and then become an MP. The first question people ask, if you get an MP, are you not going to run away back to America again? Why? Because they want to see people they can relate to, people that they want to have everyday conversation with, quote unquote, in their class. You understand? So the chiefs are the closest within that echelon with the people. So if you think ancillary role is what you give them to solve the problem, you are lying. The only way you can solve the problem is give them the money to sit back. Now, let me come. But again, morality, decorum, propriety, respect will never be there when a policeman have more power than a chief. You get a whole point. I'm building something. So what you do is, how do you flip the card? The first thing you do is to make chieftaincy institution a reverence institution. For now, it loses sovereign, it loses power, it loses respect. Yes, we know there are bad mouth here. There are chiefs who are collaborating as well. But again, because of this root cause, a chief who is poorer than a church mouse and has a land that benefit a lot of gold is sitting, and you think that he is not going to do a collabo with the Chinese? See, Otunfo may be fighting Gala. Why? Because he's rich. His kingdom is big. They pay royalties to him, don't they? Don't they, multinational corporations pay royalty to him? What about the chief hunter who has just one arm? You understand that? Who does not even have any formal education? Whose domain, jurisdiction, it's just a tiny one, and he's still poor. You understand? Do you think he has the same backing, the same power, the same authority to talk about Gala as a chief who is so super rich, who is already established, who has a lot of royalty flowing here and there? No. So what you do is, listen, my first point of contact would be to tell the president of the people of Ghana that what you call Council of the Yemen Chiefs is a paper tiger. It's a white elephant. It serves no purpose in this modern dispensation in our democracy. Number one, it's just an advisory body, isn't it? It is. Whatever they say does not even carry anything. That's it. The president can choose. Like, why they now say that dual citizenship bill should be rejected by the president? The president can choose not to go by it, right? All I'm saying is that even if we think a body such as the Council of Chiefs or Council, or whatever they call it, is important, we should try to give it some form of legitimate power that carries credence, that carries verisimilitude, that carries power, that carries kind of something more open power that is real than advisory role. You understand? And people like Alan Chamante have suggested the same thing. And I'm here to tell you, even in my doctorate dissertation, I said the same thing. The same kind of way is too comical to me that we approach every development issue in Ghana. Oh, this thing is too small. John Mahama is showing us something different. He's going beyond what we think. You understand? If you put up an airport that can rival with any airport in the Western world, are you not a big thinker? Of course, that's how we have to do infrastructure. That is how we have to approach every other thing in terms of even governance. So don't tell me because you don't have money, we can't have a two-chamber of parliament. Make Council of Chiefs, or whatever you call it, a second chamber of parliament, just as we have in the Westminster system. You understand? Give them some real, like how people respect their MPs, DCs, right? If a chief is having that kind of backing, he sits on bills, he has sent to them. You understand? If he calls you to come before him, would you?
Yeah.
You will.
Are there examples in other African countries that you could cite to?
Well, there's a blend. If you go to South Africa, and I think Lesotho, right?
The question is related to addressing issues of small scale mining. So, like what you are saying, yeah. So, can you give examples, cite examples of based on. Okay.
When you take Lesotho and South Africa, for instance, in their parliamentary system, right, they find a blend of traditional leadership who are equally members, not with the cabinet, but members of the legislature, you understand? And bills have to still pass through their heads. See, if people know the role MPs play, right, in our political dispensation, and so whatever an MP says carries some form of legalization, quote unquote, even though it's not law. If a chief can say something, and then this same chief has power of mandamus, power to, control sanitation, for instance. You don't have to wait for the EPA, right? And I remember when we're doing that. PV licenses will be at home, and then they call these town councils and etc. That way, or probably be under the chieftaincy institution at the time. I don't know, because the chiefs were playing so much important role. You'll be there, they'll come and catch gold, etc. You understand? That are wandering everywhere, and then they'll put fines on these individuals, right? And at the time, these things were working. They were working very well. But today, nobody goes to them. You understand? Even little issues of litigation still finds their way to court. So what I'm saying is that give them some currency, give them some legalization, give them some kind of way that their issues are not just going to be advisory, but they're going to be binding. You get a whole point.
Okay.
And once you give them that kind of legalization, they bound ideas that people can relate directly to, and they know that they carry some kind of legal authority, people are bound to listen.
Okay.
People are bound to listen. So for me, give, in our decentralization structure, give chiefs some kind of, legal structure where they can function, that whatever they do, the law recognizes it. It's not just because they are advisors, you understand, and then they have to just be within the chain. And then two, identify these gazetted chiefs, put them on little subvention. Some of them are just too poor, you understand, and then they are tempted by the dint of the dish of poverty to go into some of these things. Give them some kind of legalization. Sorry, my battery is weak. Give them some kind of legalization, you understand, and then give them some small subventions that they can live on monthly, you understand, and then I think the president have suggested something like that, right?
Okay.
It's not a livelihood empowerment. that they'll be giving some subventions to chiefs who are, authorized according to their various jurisdictions traditionally. I think through the Council of Chiefs or elsewhere. So I'm saying that modernize the Council of Chiefs, turn it into something more legal, turn it into something more respected, turn it into something that has more overt, responsibilities. Other than just this advisory thing that it does and nobody sees it, and everybody just want to be a member of that particular council, probably because of the freebies that they get from government. But that is not it. If only you can have the power of mandamus as a chief, if only you can assign bills to people, you understand?
Yeah.
What is community cleaning, like how you mobilize society, and then you can also, the same thing that the town councils do in our time when we're young. But in this case, they're doing it because the laws back them. You understand? Why would people not show up? Like community cleaning when we're young, a chief authority then, even though it was just advice, it was still, carrying a lot of believing importance. But imagine this chief now calls an assembly meeting and you don't show up. Like in the old ancient days in Greek democracy, they call something lethargies. That society puts responsibilities on the rich. If they call a meeting, you don't show up. Remember, hey, we're going to war with Agis. We're going to war with the Spartans. You're going to build us 10 ships. You have no way to escape from it because they don't come to the meeting. You build them 10 ships. You understand? And so, if chiefs have this power at the local level, because already we are not in dispute about their authority and they are the first point of contact, like paramedics, in the health sector. And then they are the people who to triage every situation. You think they don't know the problems more than the government who is sitting in Accra? You understand? So in the structure that we call decentralization, I think that outside with the likes of Alan Tramante, if you don't have another chamber, put chiefs on equal or even more important pegging than our parliamentarians and all this. You understand? That important bills have to be assented, voted, agreed upon by these people. You understand? And then change and flip the structure by giving the reverence, respect, and legal backing. They can solve the problem. Even if you put them in sessions and committee meetings at the district assembly level and whatsoever, they will just go and nod and sleep. I don't know, some of them are open. They do not have anything to the fight. They'll still be complacent. But once they have that kind of backing, I'll give you a practical example. I was doing politics. People never even followed whatever I say here, not even on Facebook. You understand? But the moment I became someone who was running for an MP seat, look at the number of followers I started having. People don't think whatever opinion you have carry currency until last they see a backing at the source of your power.
Yeah.
You and I, what we're doing here today, imagine tomorrow you become a minister of environmental whatsoever, and I become a minister of women's sports or whatsoever. And then look at the number of followers that we have the next day. It is because people only gravitate towards where they think there's a legal backing.
Yeah.
And visibility.
Yeah.
Give chiefs the visibility, give chiefs the backing, and see whether or not they'll not be able to remove governments and solve this problem by themselves.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Manessa Menta, for being on the show. We thank our viewers for joining us on today's episode of the Green Transition Show. We encourage you to share our videos, like, comment on them, and send us feedback to improve. We are learning every day. So send us your feedback to improve so that we continue to bring you insightful conversations. If you have not subscribed to the channel, kindly do so. Hit the subscribe button on YouTube to motivate us to continue to bring you such insightful conversations. You can also follow us on TikTok, Facebook, and on LinkedIn. Thank you so much. We hope to see you again next weekend. Thank you.